Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Animal Well. Animal Well is the first indie game published by BIGMODE, the studio that Videogamedunkey has put together. Given his reputation as a video game reviewer, he needs the first game that they publish to be remarkable. So with that in mind, let's dive into the details about Animal Well, starting with the gameplay. The gameplay of Animal Well falls into the genre of Metroidvania. This is a genre that sets the player on a non-linear journey throughout a map with lots of backtracking and exploration. It is inspired by the formula that classic Metroid and Castlevania games have created, given the namesake. So how does it hold up as a Metroidvania? Animal Well hits all the beats of the genre, not holding the hand of the player at all, and instead having them piece together things themselves. You'll get lost, then eventually find your way to move forward, then get lost again. There are plenty of puzzles to solve, and the game really focuses on them alongside the exploration more than anything else. This is because there is no traditional combat like you would expect from a Metroidvania. The items you get throughout your journey are not used as weapons, and simply are tools to open up pathways and solve more puzzles. Even the quote boss fights are not even combat fights in the same sense, and all revolve around a puzzle. However, the game doesn't tell you about interactions with the environment and enemies, so you'll find out mechanics about the game via trial and error. That being said, this does lead to a very satisfying experience where you'll find a solution or figure out a mechanic with one of the items and feel accomplished in doing so. Now, is there any story at all? There is no story really at all in this game, but that isn't necessarily a downside. The game leans heavily into the gameplay instead, and while there is an ending, it's all about the journey. All you have to know is that your main objective is to reach the fires placed throughout the map, but now the question still stands. Pause or repeat? Alright, I got 3 words to describe this game. Captivating, eerie, and mysterious.
Yeah.
Do you have any words for yourself?
I got a lot more words than that. Man, this game is a whole lot to unpack because it is challenging. It tests your patience. It's frustrating. And it's addicting for a 16-bit game. I mean, you feel like you're having a lucid LSD trip. I mean, you just think you've got a sense of grip of reality, but you start to see pixelated animals appear out of nowhere and they steal your sense of direction, Henrik. I mean, I'm just amazed that as someone who is not really the biggest fan of 8-bit and 16-bit games, there is something about the game that is so frustrating that it pulls you in like a yo-yo.
Well, it's the whole thing of like, oh man, I can't get this puzzle. Let me come back to it. You come back to it, and you're like, man, I still can't get it. And then you get it, and you're like, oh man, I was just stupid. But now I'm smart because I get it.
Right, and I think, usually I always like to judge a game by its story. Clearly, this is not where the developer was going with Animal Well. It's more about, discovering the mysteries and the secrets that unfold, and it really rewards the gamers in that sense, especially considering how there's no combat skills required in this game. You literally can only go like left, right, jump, grab onto something, and you just have to MacGyver the gameplay mechanics and navigate through this massive map, leaving you feeling more resourceful than a squirrel storing acorns for winter.
I mean, yeah, and that's where it's shining as a Metroidvania because, yeah, you could easily do what Metroid games and Castlevania games have already done in the past, and this does do a lot of what those 2 genres of games have done already, but at the same time, those 2 games, they focus on combat more than anything else as the avenue to move things forward. Whereas with this, it's like, oh, we're just going to put a really complicated puzzle that you won't get right away in your path, or a boss fight will be a puzzle itself, and you're going to keep dying to it until you figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, Henrik. And, even to just add on to the allure and the atmosphere, it's so captivating. I don't know how you felt, Henrik, but like every time I went to go launch this game on my PS5, I had to dim the lights in my gaming room. I really had to immerse myself in this world because it it really feels like you're being pulled into a black hole of an entertainment. But, except you're going to get crushed by gravity, of course. But, I do have to say you were kind of going off about like the mysterious stuff and, looking for the telephone and the fast travel. I guess the only thing I would gripe about this game is they desperately need an accessibility option for novices like me for games like these kind of exploration, because I'm just afraid gamers are going to try to quit out of this game within 20 minutes if they have an attention span the size of a raisin. You're going to be always consistently wanting to go to YouTube to be able to navigate through the next puzzle, and I think that's kind of a problem with the game. No one wants to go to YouTube. That's like using the GPS to try to find the needle in the haystack when the size of the game, the map, is like a continent. That was the only part that got me a little bit frustrated, because I like a good challenge where I don't have to deviate away from the game experience and have to go to YouTube, but I found myself doing that quite a bit playing Animal Well.
You know what, Chris? That's just a skill issue, because the whole point of this game, the whole point of this game is to not hold your hand and tell you where things are.
But I need it.
The frustration of I'm not being able to figure it out, and then the satisfaction of figuring it out.
Yeah, but it's like,
that's just my opinion on that. I mean, I think that's just that kind of game.
No. I feel like you're trying to stir up a debate with me. This is starting to sound like a heated round of Monopoly, and I'm not liking this right now. No, I'm just playing. But no, really, I'm just afraid, with the newer generation, and I will even say millennials, the attention span, it's so small. It's like a grape at a wine tasting. It's gone. It's like, so.
I'd say maybe this game isn't necessarily for everyone. That's the downside to it being this genre of game and this formula. It's not necessarily for everyone. Yeah, you'd like to have a game be for everyone, but if you don't have the intentions span for this game, then it's just maybe not for you.
But do you feel like the hype that the clearly we're expounding upon, just even speaking upon this game, and even good amount of critics have also been feeling the way that I'm gonna say repeat, is that do you feel, because of the sense that emulators are becoming a little bit more prominent to all phones now because iOS has been late to the party, do you think that's why this game's being kind of celebrated in the sense, or do you feel like it's really just the magic in and alone of itself?
Well, that might have something to do with it, considering there's more attention on this style of game, the 16-bit or 8-bit style of game. But when it comes down to it, I think that when you look at the indie genre, a lot of indie games do release in this style of game, Metroidvania, with sprite artwork rather than full-on 3D, because it's just more accessible to people to develop a game with that lower spec requirement for the graphics, where then they can just focus on making the gameplay good and the experience polished as much as they can.
Right.
And this is a great example of that, because there's been plenty of games that have done this already, but this is also it's the first game from Dunkey's publishing studio,
Right.
And that helps, of course, also with the hype, because everyone was like, oh, wait, well, what is he going to come out with as his first game? Because
that's a good point.
If it's a trash game, then we got to clown him, because he's clowning a bunch of games all the time.
Yeah.
But it was maybe not necessarily like a safe expectation for them to do an indie game like this, because they could have done other things, I'm sure, with the money behind them.
Right.
But doing this one, they did a real great job. I still think that they could have done a better character than just a blob. That's my
well,
stance on
they
that.
don't want to get sued by Nintendo for ripping off Kirby, or is that a bit of a stretch?
I mean, when you look at a lot of other Metroidvania games, they have an actual character design, not even just Metroid and Castlevania.
But maybe they felt that
other games out there.
Maybe they felt like if they put too much of an artistic approach around the character, then you wouldn't take in the whole experience, which is the landscape and the dark allure, and just being able to blow dynamite, and just being able to discover even more different caves and hidden pathways and ladders and switches and cranks, and oh my gosh, and I'm trying to bite my tongue because it's one of those kind of style of games where if we say too much, then we kind of spoil the allure of the game. So gamers, if you're interested in these kind of style of game, it's not going to be for everybody. Just throwing it out there. Might be for like the genre of gamers that like Talos Principle.
Yeah, there you go. Another puzzle
in a
game.
sense, or maybe, the likes of Portal. You guys are, anybody that's into the next evolution of puzzle gaming, hey, this game might be for you. So I'm calling it a repeat. What are you saying, Henrik?
Yeah, it's a repeat for me too, especially since I didn't go and get all the secrets, so there's more things for me to discover.
I have a feeling a lot of people didn't get the secrets the first time around. I know a lot of people were bitching online, saying like, "Oh, the game's pretty fast." Yeah, you probably didn't discover everything.
You didn't experience everything.
You didn't. Yeah. It's like playing Little Big Planet, and you're not picking up all the bubbles. You're just running and doing a speed run. Okay, there's a lot more to discover in the game. But hey, join along for the ride.